If you're thinking about purchasing the new Mercedes-Benz EQE SUV and you're contemplating whether to choose this vehicle over another vehicle, you've come to the right place. I recently bought this EQE SUV about a week ago, and here is my honest owner's review of the pros and cons of my car. First thing I will give credit to Mercedes-Benz for is their updated MBUX system. Compared to other vehicles like the Tesla, where you don't get a digital driver's dash, the Mercedes-Benz gives you a 12.3-inch OLED digital driver's dash, and I found it to be very intuitive and very customizable to my needs. You can change how you like the screen to be viewed. I personally like the driver's assistance page. However, there are other options such as navigation, off-road mode, and service, which tells you your past service and your future service. I will also mention that the steering wheel now has haptic touch rather than the physical buttons found in older Mercedes, and they're not finicky and they work very well. Another thing I really like is the interior ambient lighting. In comparison to other vehicles like Tesla, I feel like Mercedes-Benz does a much better job at integrating their ambient lighting. Not to say that the ambient lighting is also 64-way adjustable, which is fairly common in other vehicles as well. However, I do feel like the integration of these lights are well done. They're very high quality, and they're also found in areas where you wouldn't typically find them in other vehicles, like the air vents and underneath your feet. While the driver's digital dash is very intuitive, I feel like the main 12.8-inch OLED center screen has some flaws hidden inside of it. Now, the biggest flaw I've found as an owner is that everything is hidden within deep menus. If you want to find how to turn off lane keeping assist, you have to go into the driver's assistance settings, then you have to go into more menus, and when you're finding it and driving, it's very hard to do. One thing I will give Mercedes-Benz credit for is the amount of information they offer. It's very easy to find charging points, charging stations nearby your house. It's very easy to check on your range, your consumption. It also shows you some parking spaces nearby, which I feel like isn't the most useful when you're living in the city. Maybe if you're going out, that may be useful. It shows you restaurants nearby, but it's nothing that you can't already do with your phone. So while there is a ton of information, I feel like some of it didn't really need to be in this infotainment system. I do appreciate it, however, it does add to the layers and complexity. Now don't get me wrong, luckily Mercedes-Benz puts the most commonly used buttons right on the front of the screen, which is something I appreciate, like opening the trunk, finding your Bluetooth devices, and small things like changing the climate control. One thing I was highly disappointed by was the lack of ventilated seats. There are tons of other cars out there that have ventilated seats at a much lower price range, and considering I paid well above $100,000 for this car, I was highly disappointed when the dealer told me that this car is not equipped with standard ventilated seats. I mean, come on, you can find those ventilated seats on any other brand. They're usually included, but Mercedes-Benz decides to put that as an option in the winter package, and I just feel like that is completely ridiculous for a car of this price range. Another place I have to dock Mercedes-Benz marks for is their range. I bought the 350 4MATIC SUV, and my top range is an EPA estimated 437 kilometers, which while is okay for a generic electric vehicle, at the price point I paid for this car, I was expecting a lot higher. Now there are other variants of the EQE, such as the 500 and the AMG EQE, that do have more range, but comparatively to other car brands, I still feel like Mercedes-Benz is decades behind their range estimates. I mean, if you compare the BMW iX, you're getting easily 100 miles more from just buying the base model, which I feel is somewhere Mercedes-Benz needs to work on. While the EPA estimated range is quite low at 437 kilometers, I have to say that the range estimate is very conservative. When I charge my vehicle up to 100% this past week, I have been shown 460 kilometers as a range that my vehicle shows, and Mercedes-Benz also does well with showing you ways to limit your range consumption, such as turning off your climate control, limiting the use of drive modes like sport and individual. However, some of those solutions aren't the most practical, but I will say that they do work in case of an emergency. In case you need that extra range, there are ways to extend that. One place I have to give Mercedes-Benz the up hand is their build quality. When I was testing out other vehicles like the Tesla Model 3 and Model Y, I was very disappointed with the lack of build quality, with the prevalence of panel gaps, small issues, small rattles in the cabin, and I can positively say that the Mercedes-Benz lacks all of those issues. It's very well put together, it's German engineering, and I had no issues with any of the fit and finish of this vehicle. If you ask me an honest opinion on if I regret my purchase or not, I can confidently say that I do not regret my purchase of buying this Mercedes-Benz EQE. The fit, the finish, and the technology surpass my expectations, and when you compare it to other options you may have in the market, I feel like Mercedes-Benz at its price range is well equipped and well modeled against its competitors. There are some downsides of the vehicle though that you can't overlook. One of them being the range. Competitors do offer more range at this price point. So if range anxiety is something that keeps you up, I highly suggest that you choose another manufacturer or a different vehicle like the EQE 500. Thank you for watching, and I hope this gives you an in-depth explanation of my purchase of my EQE 350 for Matic.